welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is our own pianist in residence, Sam Page. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Sam, I'm going to have to create another intro, aren't I? Because we have shifted the lineup here on Tuesdays.
We sure
it's
have.
exciting.
I had the same thought. I was like, wait, does he have a new intro for Joel? But heck, next week.
I will next week, yeah. So Joel Elston, after all these years apart, we're back. We're back to doing it the way we did it for, I haven't even looked it up, Joel. I think it was like a 3 or 4 year period that we were doing this together.
I think there were many of those, as I mentioned before. It was just me and you.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was it.
It was wonderful. And, of course, now that I'm doing it 5 days a week, that's when our schedules fell apart, so we couldn't do that because you're one of the craziest, busiest life coaches on the face of the planet. So trying to do a 4 p.m. Eastern time just did not work.
It was really rough, but the fact your flexibility now, 7's great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, Sam's heard a lot about, everybody's heard a lot about you. You get quoted a lot on the show. You haven't been on a regular basis in years, but let me tell you, I tell Joel stories all the time. So it's not like you're going to have to kind of come up with new stories. You can't just rehash the old ones anymore.
The problem is there's so many.
Stole them all.
Yeah. There's so many. I don't know what are the old ones or the new ones, but we have had, there's always something new in my world. That's for sure.
That is true.
That's good.
That is true. I will actually at times I'll ask you to rehash some of the stories because I love them so much, and I know listeners will love them too. But yeah, we're for the most part we're just gonna we'll play it by ear. We'll do what we normally do, and we'll try to avoid these big icons on the screen. There, that's a little bit better, and we'll just have some fun. So I saw what you posted, Joel, when you talked to your followers about how we're doing the show today, and I liked what you said. One of the first things that you mentioned was we're going to dive into quantum physics. We haven't actually talked about quantum physics for quite some time. So I think we just kind of start there just because we haven't talked about that for a while here on the show. When you typed that, did you have anything particular in mind, or were you just thinking back to how we would go down all kinds of rabbit holes?
Well, you and I would go down a lot of rabbit holes, but you know, quantum entanglement is part of the law of attraction process. So that makes me, when you realize how two molecules could be entangled and you send them all the way around the world, say an electron that's positively charged, and two of them, and they are quantum entangled with another one. You could send it around the world, and if you change it to a negative charge in one, instantaneously the other also turns negative.
Yeah.
So this quantum entanglement, the energies are entangled at whatever distance. We haven't been able to do this yet, but in theory it would work, multiple hundreds of millions of light years away.
Well, actually they have been able to do that. They have done a test, not hundreds of light years away, but one of the systems that's about, I can't remember how many it is, 10 or 12 light years away, something like that. They were actually able to do an instantaneous test along that line. Right. That far out. So clearly distance doesn't have a whole lot of role to play here.
Right. So when you look at, just quantum theory, when it involves entanglement, that's very important, because you see how energy gets entangled and it's always communicating. So there's that energy exchange that we talk about with the law of attraction, where you're talking about the frequency exchange. So that explains a lot of that. And then when you add, sort of like the double slit experiment where, you observe a bunch of protons, just being shot up against the wall. And then they put like a hole through a board with slits in it. And they suggested that those protons would just follow the slit, go straight through, and the pattern would be that would go through. That's what should have happened. And that's what did happen until it wasn't being observed, and then it had a random pattern, which made no sense. And this has been repeated thousands of times.
Lots of times.
Yeah, the observation of this mechanism in play influenced the protons. That is such a law of attraction thing where
it is.
The influence of what you look. So when over the years, I'm all into the law of attractions. There's no doubt all that. But when you see the science of why it can take place, that's when it becomes super exciting. That's when you understand that quantum physics is actually verifying how the science of law of attraction would work. That's game changing for a lot of people.
I think so too. Yeah. In fact, you mentioned the idea that you could have a communication happening over light years. And the part and you really can do that. The part that's truly astonishing about that is that the communication is instantaneous. We're talking about something light years away, but when you perform the experiment, what you try to do here happened instantaneously there at the same instant. In other words, there's no delay. There's no time travel. There's no waiting for it to go 4 years, because that's what 4 light years is, right? No waiting for it to go 4 years. No, it's the same moment. And that's when I began to realize, we don't get energy yet. We truly don't grasp. It's like Niels Bohr. Niels Bohr was one of the founders of the quantum mechanics thing. He's the one who said, if you think that you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics.
Yeah. And the more you dive into it, the more it just gets baffling and almost unbelievable. But because it's while simultaneously existing with verifiable physics, which is often the opposite. That's what's always been fascinating to me, is there's 2 layers of physics that both play out perfectly. Yeah. And it's like, wow, there's more at play here than you realize. So, the introduction of any of this quantum theory, is, when I started getting into it, I never would have gotten into this except when I realized that you're talking law of attraction, the energy exchange, the vibrational exchange between, other energies and how you match that. This is how an influence, of your perspective changes outcomes. That's amazing to me.
And I don't remember exactly how he phrased it, but I know that Einstein indicated that there is no such thing as a vacuum, that even outer space is just filled with energy. Yes. It took me years to grasp the meaning of that.
Yes. And that's one of the concepts. He's also the one that said, just called this whole theory of quantum theory, it's spooky. He said spooky, yeah. That's his words. He said it was spooky because he said, and this is Einstein. If it was spooky to him, it just, and he meant it. He said, it's verifiable and it's spooky. That's the best word he could come up with.
And if I remember correctly, he was applying the word spooky to an aspect of quantum physics that Einstein knew theoretically should play out a certain way, but his rational mind says, no, that can't possibly be true. So even Einstein couldn't buy into his own theory.
Exactly. And that's why he called it spooky. Yeah, which is great.
I feel like I kind of question if humans are like built to understand it fully. It's fascinating to think about, though.
That's a great point, because when humans, we one of the concepts that I believe, and I don't even know where we're at and where the show has gone, but I believe we sort of come here for a purpose and a reason. We're here, and we intentionally don't know a lot what's going on. This is sort of like you choose to come here and then you get to discover all this. And I think that's part of the background thing going on. We're not intended to know all of this, and that's the exciting part. It's just it isn't meant to make sense. It's when you go to Disney World, you don't want to know why it works. When you go see a magician perform, most people just want to see the illusion. They're not really interested in how they did it. So it's just, when we come to Earth, I think as whatever this journey that we're on, we're not intended to know all this stuff. And that's why I get up every day excited about new discoveries, and I'm always on to something new. I'm constantly, and it applies in the way the brain works. And when you get into, the neuroscience of the brain and how quantum mechanics could eventually affect the brain, Walt and I have been huge advocates of the placebo effect over the years, and the underrated value of a placebo effect. And there's a lot of that coming to pass right now. A lot of studies taking place of actually using placebo as the treatment, because it's so effective, which is great.
Cool. I wouldn't have thought of that.
It's an odd thing, though, because I've also been investigating what the placebo researchers are researching. And it turns out that the people who are investigating placebo as a treatment are not the credentialed placebo researchers. They're not the ones working in the universities and so forth. They are instead people who have decided they're going to think outside of the box. They're going to kind of reach outside of mainstream medicine, and they're the ones who are doing the experimentation. But the mainstream placebo researchers are literally limiting all of their placebo research to pain relief.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that that's where they go from, let's think outside of mainstream medicine. I like that that's where they go from.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And I love to see that.
Yeah, and one of the things sort of on the same, as we sort of go into that, there's on Huberman's podcast, which I really like a lot of his stuff. There's this lady that she's this brilliant doctor that's into this concept of mindset, and her she was doing a study where, like stress, your perception of stress dictates the stress effect on your body.
Yeah.
A lot of people that believe stress is positive and gets me motivated, they don't have the same negative chemical markers that people that view stress as being debilitating. It literally responds different to your perspective of stress.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. The other one that this one gets even deeper is one of the experiments she did is they brought in several people and they were doing an experiment using milkshakes. And they were telling everyone that this milkshake is a very low calorie, no fat, no sugar, or low fat, low sugar. It's only got 100 calories. We're using some artificial sweeteners in it. And that's it. The other group is told this has 48 grams of sugar, and 148 grams of sugar, whatever it was, a lot of fat, a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. So they told them that. And there's also that middle group. And they said that, that 700, there's 100. Well, the truth is all these variations had one thing in common. They were all the same 300 calorie milkshake. They were all the same. But when they measured blood sugar and the hunger hormone ghrelin, they responded as they thought that the milkshake was. So the glucose response responded to the low calorie. It didn't raise blood sugar at all. It was like amazing. The 700 calorie one, whatever, it raised it drastically like a 700 calorie one would. And the ghrelin hormone responded with cessation. Like, that felt great. I've had them. The ones that low calorie said, I'm still really hungry. So the body responds on a level of what you believe. The painkillers. There's I deal a lot with addiction, and which whole separate story. But people that are addicted to opiates, when they go without their Suboxone is a way to get off of opiates. So it's a drug that has a little bit of an opiate in it and an opiate antagonist, but it keeps you from going through withdrawals. But when you don't get your Suboxone, you go into a very quick withdrawal, and the symptoms of withdrawal are brutal. So one time I was running this group, and there was like 15 people in this morning group, and this lady came in, and she was in full blown withdrawal. She was shaking. She was sitting on the ground. She was hugging a pillow, cold and then sweating. And she said, I'm out of Suboxone. So before I started my group, I called the doctor and I said, I have so-and-so's here with, she's out of Suboxone and she's in a really bad place. Mm-hmm. So I started the group. With a few minutes, he texted me back, said, I will be there by the time you finish your group. She can either wait in group or wait in the lobby. So I just looked over at her and I said, the doctor will be here at the end of group. She said, okay, thank you. So I happened to look over about 5 minutes later. She was fine. Mm. She was just smiling and talking. She participated in group. Just the fact that knowing the doctor was on the way with the drug that would relieve the withdrawals, relieved the withdrawals.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fascinating again. And now, by no means am I claiming she's not faking. This was a real relief for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I believe that. I believe that. Yeah. And there's there's a position I've been pushing lately, because I've actually had, Joel, in the last year, I've had probably a dozen people in the medical field on as guests. which has been really, really cool. And I've been learning a lot from it. And with each of them, to one degree or another, I'll push the placebo issue just to, as far as I feel like they're willing to go.
Right.
And sometimes I push a little bit further, other times I don't. But the latest thing that I've been pushing has been the idea that we typically tend, as a society, and the medical industry itself tends to do the same thing, we tend to treat it as you either are accepting a placebo or you're all about the gold standard of the placebo-controlled double-blind study.
Right.
And there the twain shall meet. And my response to that is, why? The whole point of doing that placebo-controlled double-blind study is to isolate the substance that you're testing to find out what it does separated from placebo. And that's great. That's useful information. The question I raise is, why can't we then take that information, put it into a clinical situation where the doctor is interacting with the patient and they're telling them this is what the likelihood of success is using that drug. And, oh, by the way, if you believe in the success of the drug, it increases to this amount.
Right.
Why aren't we doing that? And I've yet to get a coherent answer from somebody who is within the mainstream community, mainly because they don't come onto a show.
Well, there's only one answer to anything medical, is financial. So that's always the answer. They don't want to give any credence to any value of that kind of thought. It doesn't serve them money wise.
Well, what I can tell you is that the doctors who I have presented that to, who have been on the show, they're very receptive to it. They say, yeah, I can't give you a good reason why we're doing that.
Well, doctors, they're not necessarily the culprits in this. They have a medical standard they're sort of required to go by. Mm-hmm. The pharmaceutical companies obviously don't like even suggesting that's a possibility.
No. Yeah.
So the AMA, which gives directive of what you can do and what you can't do, they're influenced obviously.
Uh-oh. We got a freeze. Oh no, Joel, come back. Come
on, Joel. Oh.
And meanwhile, he's the wizard in the balloon saying, I can't come back. I don't know how it works.
I don't know what happened.
Well, there he is. He's back.
Yeah. Hey, I'm back. So don't know what that's happened. But anyway, I don't know how long I was gone, but
about 15 seconds.
Okay. So the premise that we're building on is when you add that to the equation, the effective nature. So I have a client a few weeks ago. She said, do you believe in crystals and the healing power of crystals? And I'm like, well, me personally, I do not. However, the fact that you do believe in the power of crystals, they're very powerful. I believe they're powerful for you because it's your belief in the crystals that matters. It's not mine.
Right.
The same thing, sorry for my, religious friends here, Jesus heals, Allah heals, Mother Teresa heals, Buddha heals. Everybody heals because not the people that you're praying to are healing. It's your belief that the people you're praying to are healing. There's proof of that against all. That's not a popular statement for a lot of religions, but they all heal, not because, Buddha's going, hey, I'm from the subconscious. You believe it strong enough so the body responds as if you're being healed. That's part of this process. There's
something really odd about that, by the way. The thing that's really odd is that in the Gospels, I don't remember exactly where it is in there, but I know it's in there. Jesus is quoted as saying, "What I can do, you can do also," and the religions seem to have skipped that part.
Well, they don't like that.
No. Some of them do. Some, I'll give credit where credit is due. Some embrace that, but there are a lot of them who just kind of dismiss it, like it doesn't really count.
Right. Well, one day we should really do a really good show on religion, but that's too deep of a hole there. But you're right.
Wow, we found a limit to how far Joel Elston will go. I didn't think I was ever going to find that.
Well, there's no limit to that subject. It just once I get started on that, when the show's over, we're going.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But there's a lot of that in the Bible that I believe Jesus said, but it's been taken away. Well, that doesn't match our narrative. Yeah. The concept for a lot of people, when you look at all this, Jesus talks a lot about the law of attraction. Yeah. One of the deleted books, which didn't match the narrative, the Gospel of Thomas, is literally a law of attraction chapter. It literally is.
Yeah.
They don't like that. So that got kicked out with the other stuff, the stuff they didn't like, we'll kick it out. But at the end of the day, what you believe influences so much. The young people that I work with, the biggest challenge I have is their inner dialogue and what they believe about themselves. That's it. That's the hardest part. The other stuff doesn't mean anything. It's let me get to that inner dialogue. Let me get them believing what they'll respond differently. There's tons of study, the California study in 1954, where they took a random kid in third grade. They told all the teachers that he tested as a genius. But his grades were average, which he was average, by the way, but they told it. So all the teachers started treating him as a genius. And when he was retested a year later, he was a genius.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were a number of studies like that in the 50s.
Yeah. That's been repeated hundreds of times in various forms and fashion. But I mean, again, how we perspect, the perception that we bring of ourselves to the table is your limitation. What you believe is your limitation. And when you that inner dialogue becomes so incredibly important. And so your belief is the most powerful thing in play because it attracts reality. Now, I also am aware there's people that are really sick and you need to get help. I am not about, if you need chemotherapy because you have cancer, what you need to do is go all in on the belief of that chemotherapy. You need to study it, look at the positive results for it. You're expecting to heal. You're going to go do that. You must do it that way. The idea, if you're going in, it should be a crime for any doctor to say, in my opinion, well, you have a 95% chance of dying. It's like, okay, well, thanks. Now, of course, I would look at it like 5%. I got 5%, but it's a very negative to go in there with that because there are miracles that happen all the time. There's the belief in when you reduce stress and you believe you're going to get better, there's a whole lot of factors at play. The body is the most capable healer that we're aware of. It's any chemical that works in the body can almost produce itself. It's just allowing the body to believe it and being in a position to do it and heal itself.
And I'm totally with you on this idea that the doctor shouldn't be saying that. I'm not sure I really want to make a law against it because I'm not really that kind of a person. But
I'm not either.
I didn't think you really were. I mean, we're both libertarian ladies, so we don't tend to do that. But nevertheless, I think you're hitting on something really, really important because as important as I believe placebo is, I think nocebo is even more important because it's the one that gets abused more often.
Yes.
Placebo gets abused a lot. Nocebo gets abused chronically.
Yes. Yes. And that's that whole, and I don't know why, but there's just the negative bias toward anything in general brings negative attention to it. So when you put a spotlight on what doesn't work or the limitations of what does, my favorite thing I forget what the guy's name was, but he wrote a book and he was talking about, he's in medical school at Harvard. And when he went to the clinic, because they were talking about all the diseases in history and, when they got to the plague, he went to the clinic and he really believed he had the plague. He truly believed it. And they laugh because every time they deal with something, they're like, yeah, you've been exposed to the symptoms. If I describe the symptoms of 97% of the onset of fatal diseases, you can find those symptoms in what I'm saying. You can. And
And Sean Aker, who's one of the spokesmen of the positive psychology movement, tells a story about exactly that kind of thing, how medical school students regularly take on the diseases, or think they're taking on the symptoms of the diseases that they're studying. And the way he tells it is his brother-in-law, whose nickname is Bobo. I always love that nickname. But Bobo was in medical school, and Bobo gives Sean a call one day, and he says, "Sean, I have leprosy."
Bobo.
And Sean didn't have the heart to, give him the Mickey on that because he had just gotten over menopause. I mean,
that's hilarious.
Wow.
The same concept on a psychological level is I work with, and I've adopted 3 children from foster care, and I work with kids, pro bono and foster care a lot. And imagine the narrative of you're taken from your family, had nothing to do with your behavior. You're taken from, so you're put into a strange home, and if you act anything but perfect, they're going to medicate you greatly and tell you you're crazy. They're going to, if you cry, they're going to say you're depressed and put you on a bunch of Prozac. You're going to get treated in a way that's very negative. So you then buy into this, I'm a oppositionally defiant, depressed, anxious kid, and that becomes the narrative. So you live as that. So you can spend years doing that. And unless somebody breaks that, that's the new inner dialogue you're programmed to be for the rest of your life. It's horrifying that that's allowed to take place, because nobody ever, in any foster parent training, and I've been through more than my share of those, is I want added, and of course they dismiss this, self-esteem modules to, on how to work with these people, young people, and developing a new inner dialogue to not be allowed to have this negative and not have it reinforced with, here's a personal example. It's I like to speak when I can with personal examples. When I was young, I was about 6 years old, and my biological father stole all of our money. We couldn't pay rent, so we went to live with my severely alcoholic grandfather. We go from the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. Right. So one evening I come in, and my grandfather is, punching my grandmother and shoving her up against the refrigerator. And again, 6 years old. So I'm witnessing that. So my mom gets me out of that environment. Says, we go and stay with a friend, right? So the next morning I get up at 6 years old, having witnessed all that, and I go to math class. And I got to learn my multiplication tables. So I'm in math class. Sitting next to me is Susie, who had the very normal childhood going on. So I am sort of in a traumatic response, and I'm expected to focus on 4 times 7. Yeah. And now I did really well in math, and I did great. So this is no means a pity party. I'm just simply saying I don't walk you don't walk into class in a traumatized state and learn at the same rate as everybody else. So of course, the kids that go in that aren't able to keep up, you're told you're not focusing, you're stupid, you're lazy. No, I've been taken from my family, and I don't have the word. These people are not nice to me. I don't have the words to express all this. I'm 7 years old, but yet you're telling me how bad I am. And so that gets programmed into people. And so my challenge in work has nothing to do with anything else except reprogramming that stuff. That fixes it.
And I love the stories that you've told in the past. I'm looking forward to hearing more of them now that you're back on a regular basis. I'm thinking, for instance, of the story about the kid who we renamed Marcus. And I was trying to remember that name recently. I couldn't remember what the name was. I didn't want to say the real name. I can't remember what the name is we came up with, but we came up with Marcus. Marcus is a perfect example of that. And I loved how in one sitting, I'm still blown away by this. In one sitting, you explained to him things. You basically showed him how he was right. You showed him how he was actually sane, how he should actually trust his own beliefs. And he did instantly.
I've never seen it. By the way, he is driving now. He's thriving. He's thriving. I mean, playing football, he's an incredible kid. Totally different reprogramming. But that's the one session he did that. He made that leap because what I told him was it resonated. So the idea that you can instantly change your life by changing your belief. I always have said young people are much better at this than old people, because young people have less baggage to reprogram. And so somebody who at the time, I think I have to remember, 12 years old, 11 years old, whatever he was,
I think he originally told me he was 9, so he was pretty young.
Pretty young. And so he didn't have much reprogramming to do. He's 9. You only had 9 years of reprogramming. You have 40 years of reprogramming. That's a lot. But he did it in one session and got himself off medication. He turned it around. He went home and told his foster mom, I'm not oppositionally defined anymore. I'm sorry for my behavior. ask his teachers, sit at the front. He wants to change things. And then one day he changed his life.
Yeah. And left a whole bunch of gaping mouths behind him.
Yeah. Well, everybody's like, what? How did that happen? So, and you see that, but I think the biggest factor of success, the biggest factor of everything is what you believe internally is going to manifest in your life. That's the law of attraction at its best.
Yeah.
And that's what it also works, as we always say, if you believe your life is a bunch of crap and it's miserable, then it is.
It is. That's where the nocebo side of it becomes so critical, because it's bad enough that, like in your case, you were a 7-year-old who had been through a traumatic situation that you'd observed, and now you're expected to focus on math. That's bad enough. But when we are told society-wide about horrible stuff happening in medical circles, and it's being presented to us as, well, you need to know this information. Basically, it's the medical establishment traumatizing the population at large.
Yes.
I have a big problem with
that. And there's, again, I'm not trying to be conspiratorial here, but a lot of it is financially, like going, not even what we're talking about. Most doctors, and it's changed some recently, but they get a couple of hours of education. And all of that education, a few hours of nutrition, of real nutrition. It's like, what you mean you don't learn how to do that? Oh, no, that's not near as important as everybody else makes. There's nothing more important health-wise than nutrition. Nothing.
Right.
And yet it's not a medical. In Western medicine, we certainly we're very, reactive to things. We treat after there's a problem, where Eastern medicine tends to, let's not get to the problem. Let's do it this way. I'm not anti-Western medicine. If you need, we have an incredible system for medicine. I love a lot of what we do.
Yeah.
But the idea that we dismiss the placebo effect or nutritional value or mindset, depression, is such a rampant thing right now. And it's just over. Well, here's a pill. Okay. Well, thank you. But is there anything between no treatment and a pill? Is there anything? And some people do need it, but also there's other interventions. It's just, let's look at it and treat it holistically. And, so that's where it comes in. So medicine is often driven by financial. Our system is a profit based, and it's not all bad either. I mean, when somebody needs, if there's $1 billion reward for this incredible drug, that'll get made pretty quick. So that does motivate. Yep. So it's not all bad. It's just simply understanding that there's more to it than the process at play here.
And I'll tell you quite honestly, this is controversial, what I'm about to say. There's no doubt about it. But I have a problem with the way that the pandemic was handled, not just here in the United States, but around the world. And I'm not going to get into, I'm not interested in what, the right things or the left thinks about, should we have been wearing masks or should you take this controversial medicine? That's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about the overall medical community expert message that said, be afraid of this thing. Wear the mask.
So
you have a duty to your fellow man to wear masks and to social distance, because if you don't, you will make this thing worse.
Yes.
And that message is so damaging. And they won't even acknowledge how damaging they won't even study how damaging that message was.
Well, but the government in general, the main tool they use, and in all politics, all sides, is fear-based now.
Yes.
If you elect this idiot, then this one's going to take your guns away, and he's going to do that. Then no, this idiot's going to do this, and it's going to be about not what they're actually going to do. And the truth is, none of them really do anything. It's just, but they're selling fear. The concept of news and politics, fear is so effective. You watch any of the news channels, and I have a gentleman at the gym I work out with. He's a really nice guy. And 2 days ago, he said, I didn't get any sleep last night because I watched the news, and that I was so scared that storm was going to blow my house down. I go, what storm?
You weren't tuned to that channel.
I don't watch the news. And he goes, oh my God, they had the tornado warnings out. They had this out. I just couldn't go to sleep. Every sound, I'm like, there were two options. You were going to go to bed and you're either going to wake up or you're not going to wake up. Now, worrying about it offered nothing to that. But turning off the news.
More than offers nothing, it actually offers despondency. It offers the idea of a negative mental mindset.
Yeah.
And that's my criticism of the way the pandemic was handled. I really would like to have seen the whole pandemic switched around. Sure, I have no problem with people social distancing, wearing masks, vaccine. I don't care which side of the fence you are on that.
Yeah.
What I ask for is, if you're going to ask people to do this, also explain to them that, well, we are in a difficult medical situation. There are a lot of people sick. A lot of people are dying, but 90% of the people are getting better. That actually we can get through this thing with a whole bunch of success. Let's look at that success for a bit. Let's talk about how we can actually heal ourselves with the power of our minds in combination with these various medical techniques that we're taking. I wish they had taken that stance. I'd be willing to predict this without any doubt. If we had taken that stance as a society, I'll bet you that the deaths would have been cut in half.
100%.
I feel like I just dropped a slug on the floor, but
no. I didn't know Sam. I didn't waited for Sam to talk there. He had something to say.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying it. Absolutely, 100% agree with the fact that everything, the way COVID was handled, it was so fear based and kind of on both sides. And
oh yeah, it was a competition.
Yes. Yeah, and the idea that who could scare the other side the most, and with all of this, and
if you weren't scared enough, there was something wrong with you.
Right. One of the things that I posted every morning during COVID was the people who had recovered for COVID, the numbers as they went up. My chart was 100,000 people had recovered from COVID and they're fine. 400,000. Then it got to 1 million. That wasn't what the news was reporting. I was reporting who had recovered.
Yeah.
And when along the way I got COVID and never knew I had COVID. Yeah. The only reason I knew I had it is my son had it and he tested positive for it. And so my doctor friend was there and said, you probably got it. I go, I feel great. He took it. He goes, no, you got it. I said, okay. But
the only reason I got it was because I got 18 days after my wife left me.
Oh.
I was not in the best vibrational space. That was the only time I had been exposed to all kinds of stuff since before that. Nothing.
I didn't know that was public information now. So.
Oh, it is public. It's been public information since January. So yeah.
Okay. I'm good. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. No, I clued everybody in. It was actually one of the last episodes I did of 2022 is letting everybody know what had happened because I've been dropping hints here and there, and I figured no, I got to let people know. So everybody's aware. Yep.
Okay. Good.
Yeah,
good.
You're safe. It's okay.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything.
No, I know you wouldn't. That's one of the things I love about you.
I didn't realize, Walt, that you got COVID around that time, but that because of the vibration.
Yeah. And it was actually, I went to, the reason I got it or where I got it, I should say, I'm very much into dancing, and I went to my first dance as a way of trying to reach out, as a way of trying to, I got to start rebuilding my life. But I did it when I really wasn't completely there yet. I had made a lot of progress. I made a ton of progress, but I was still vibrationally kind of so-so. And I got to that dance and I could just feel like, I'm not really feeling this so good. And I kind of pushed myself to stay there. I stayed for about half of it and then I left. And then 3 days later, all of a sudden I get sick as a dog. And I said, oh, I wonder. And I tested and sure enough, I was positive.
Yeah. Well, and that's what happens. You're so low vibrationally, but that's when we get invaded. And again, the suggestion of you is COVID's out there. And again, I don't like the debate either because all sides get so upset.
Oh,
but
God.
No matter what it is, I may have told this story the last time I was there, but I'll tell this real briefly. I have a really good friend in Florida. He is a few years younger than I am, but he's like me, working out, our mindset, really solid guy. And so his wife calls one day and says, Steve has cancer. He has liver cancer. I'm
Oh,
like,
I remember
what?
this story.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is so crazy. And so I said, well, I'm coming down. And she said, well, just let us, we're, you know, don't come raise hell with everybody. Just wait. And so I came down, of course, I came down anyway. Um, so it took me about a week to clear my calendar to get down there. And when I got down there, I mean, he's a very fit guy, you know, 210 pounds, all muscled up. When I got down there, he had lost about 19 pounds and he was gray
Mm.
and weak. And I said, you have been working out? And he goes, no, man, I got cancer. I'm dying. I'm like, you got to work out. So he'd just totally given into this concept.
Right.
So he had an appointment. They wouldn't allow me in to see the doctor, of course, because I would have been disruptive. But
well, they probably heard about you.
yeah. They were like, yeah. Well, his wife's Joel. You're staying.
Oh, he's one of those people. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so I waited in the lobby, and they were at this cancer clinic in Tampa, and I was there for like 6 hours. I'm like, oh my God, they've just cut him out. I had all kind of images. I had no information of what's going on. So they came out, and I go, are you okay? What happened? He goes, well, they kept taking me in for scans and x-rays and they ran tons of blood work, and finally they came to us and said, you don't have cancer. We don't know how you got that diagnosis. And it had to be something mixed up. There was whatever the process was, said, you're actually in very good health.
Wow.
However, his body had been suggested that he had cancer and responded quickly like he was dying.
Yeah.
So one of the first things we did, we stopped at Chipotle, got a double everything, ate a lot of food, let that digest. We crushed a workout. We worked out every morning. We ate, you know, tons of food, and I left. He was fine. His color came back within a week. He had gained his weight back. He was back to his rhythm.
Wow.
But the diagnosis could have killed him. It could have. He was dying. His body was responding as if he was dying. He's fine now. And they've even been back a couple times, and they're actually getting a settlement from that whole thing. That was for whatever error that was. But
right.
it was this ridiculous thing. So the body responds in either direction. It just,
right.
It's fascinating to me how that's underrated. And it applies like in the belief of your life, like the waking up every morning, like financially. Walt and I, Steve, one of the things Walt and I have always talked about, there's two classes of people that come to the law of attraction. They're looking for either they want a relationship improvement or they want money improvement. Sometimes it's both, but it's usually one or the other.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes both, but I've found
no. Sometimes health. Sometimes it's health related.
Yeah, that's the third option. Yeah. But most of the time, so we we had several callers over the years, or people would contribute, say, well, I originally came here because I wanted more money. I didn't get more money, but man, I got a new relationship and my life's better. I got a better job, better other situations, and that's because they're so hyper focused on why they came in, they're actually repelling it versus when you just sort of put it out there, things are great, the other thing's fixed. So you get up every day, and if you're expecting to have a bad day, you're expecting to have bad traffic, this is the stuff this is how it all ties together, because the energy you put out generally matches what you get. And even if you have a bad day, I've had a crazy month with some weird stuff happen to me, just very weird stuff. And I just learned to say, look, I don't even know what to do with this stuff. I just got to keep doing what I'm doing. It makes no sense when these left turns come. You just keep going. And my life's great. My son's doing fantastic. Things are good. Like I said, my job's amazing. Doing what I love. I just don't let those things affect it. And you can, not everything's going to be perfect, but your response to how you respond to those things that aren't perfect is what really matters.
Yeah, that's a key word right there, response. We've talked about, Sam, we've talked about that a lot, haven't we? How you respond to stuff.
Yeah, because you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to that, and that's kind of what can make the difference.
Right. Well, and also even beyond that, when you control that response, I believe every single thing that happens, and even the wild, weird stuff, and one day I may share this one, but it's a little too fresh to share this weird. It's really weird. So, but how you respond to that, but what it can do is set you in. That's where, the elusive book I've been working on forever, The Law of Action, comes into play, where something happens and how you respond to it is clearly where your power is. But beyond that, something happens, how you respond to it often puts you in the path of something you never anticipated.
That's very true.
That happens a lot. It's like, wow, what, not only did it happen, I responded to it, but however, that put me right in the pathway of something I never would have considered.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because I think if also your response just includes like trusting that this might not have been what you expected or intended, but then trusting that this is ultimately towards the best outcome possible.
Yes. And that journey concept of, when I finally resigned to the concept that there is no destination in my life, the journey is the point. And every day the journey brings it. That is so freeing. I'm not heading anywhere anymore. I'm just doing the journey. And I could, my world, I could end up anywhere doing anything. I'm open to that. The journey is driving me. It's the idea that I want to end up at a certain place at a certain time. That doesn't exist in my world. I just focus on the journey. I love where it takes me, and I have no idea where it takes me half the time.
Sam and I both went through a program that is offered by another guy who was a co-host for a number of years, David Strickle. He's a channeler, kind of like Esther Hicks is with Abraham. And the program's called the TIA program. TIA is TYA, stands for Trust Your Abundance. The basic idea of the program, I'll just cut it down to a real tight nutshell. It's kind of like doing self-directed therapy using journaling and meditation and basically uprooting childhood traumas and so forth. And so you can get those out of the way so you can actually get yourself into a more consistent mind space. One of the things that both Sam and I experienced going through that program is the experience of discovering those steps along the way that we have trouble with and finding a way to appreciate them.
Yeah.
And the first time you're presented with that idea of appreciating what in the program they're called transgressors, appreciating transgressors, it's mind-boggling. Why would I want to appreciate a transgressor?
It's like,
yes, there's a reason the transgress. There will be a point to it. That's you've heard my the one of the original stories of that where in 1989 I'm eating out of the trash can in Las Vegas, and a lot of things happen. Years later, I have this kid in foster care who had also been forced to eat out of the trash can for much different reasons. And that was a connecting bond between us over 10 years, and a totally changing thing. So eating out of a trash can because you're homeless in Las Vegas and you gambled all your money away, never good. Right. Until that becomes the one connecting factor with some young man that is never connected with anybody. So when I was able to share with him, when he asked me, how would I know what it's like to eat out of a trash can? I'm like, well, I do know. And what are the odds of that? How did that? So I look back and go, my God, one of the best things that ever happened to me is eating out of a trash can, because what it did for me, by the way, I adopted him. That's my son, TJ. And it just, that was amazing that I made that connection through what I assumed at the time was one of the worst events of my life. Allow it to unfold, allow it to play out. When something is missing or gone, there's going to be a replay. If you have that ability to respond with, let's see what's next, whatever.
Another freeze. No. Well, last time it was 15 seconds. Maybe this time it'll be 15 seconds too.
You shall see. But one thing that's coming to mind is I think it's so beautiful how that manifested, but also like something that I've kind of come to think of more lately is how like he's the kid's his manifestation, but then he's also the kid's manifestation. I think it's
both of them, right?
Yes. And that's the exciting. So all of this coming together is such an amazing. The way I look at it is when you live this way and you wake up every day with whatever's going to happen is going to happen. My response to it is where I need to put my energy. If I wake up in a bad vibrational state or my mindset's not right, the first thing I do before I leave the house is adjust that mindset.
Mm.
There's nothing more important than my mindset, my perspective walking out that door, because that's where I'm going to attract whatever's out there. And if it's a bad mindset, I'll attract that.
That's right. Yeah. And on the subject of transgressors or bad things that happen and finding out later on there was something good about them, one of the things that you learn to do in that program and that we talk about fairly frequently here is you may not know how it could play out well yet. Because, I mean, in your case, like with TJ, you didn't know. You hadn't met TJ yet. You had never really considered that possibility.
He wasn't alive when that happened.
It wasn't even an option yet.
Yeah.
But it eventually did become an option. So what we try to remember is I may not know why this is going to play out well, but I know it's going to play out well. I know because that's the way it always is. Crazy things happen.
Yes.
People experience, crazy stuff. They go through traumatic situations and so forth. And yet somehow they always end up with an opportunity to gain something of value from it, which is mind-boggling.
To me, it's the point. It's the beauty of life when you allow your perspective to sit there and say, okay, I can't ever wrap my hand at that moment. My family's disowned me. I'm in Las Vegas. I'm homeless. I'm nasty. I've lost just disgusting feeling. And I'm having to eat out of a trash can. There is zero possibility that I could ever view that. My mindset clearly at that time was not law of attraction based. So
right.
There's no way I'd be able to do that.
Well, you didn't even know about it at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So fast forward. And when I make the connection with TJ, I mean, there's a million things. I mean, the fact that I'm able to share that experience with him, which is the first time he's ever bonded with another person, it changed his life. Me eating out of a trash can changed TJ's life as well.
Yeah.
And so there's no way that's predictable. So no matter what's going on, I always challenge people to I'm not asking you to love the bad stuff. I'm asking you to accept this. There's more to the story. There's another chapter here. Allow the other chapter to be written. Let's see what unfolds. And I do believe in my life, no matter what happens, and I have a lot of evidence over the last lot of years that it's always going to be to my benefit somehow.
And that's hard. Let's be perfectly honest. When you're currently faced with I like the way Mike Dooley says it. You have the crappy option, the crappier option, and the crappiest option. Those are your three options.
Yes.
Right? And you got to pick one of those. And when you're trying to pick one of those, you really can't see how any of them can work out well. The challenge in the face of this overwhelmingly seemingly negative situation is find some way to remind yourself, you know what? I can't see it yet, but one of those is going to work out well, and maybe all three of them do.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's just hard.
When Walt and I first spoke, many years ago, I was running a treatment center here near where I live. And he was attracted or wanted to interview me because I was using the law of attraction in addiction treatment. And it was fascinating at the time. So he reached out.
He being the guy who was running this clinic?
Yes. And so now I was the architect of this. I wrote the law of attraction stuff. But I gave him great credit for allowing me to use that concept. Mm-hmm. And we had great results in implementing that with traditional addiction treatment and expectations in the brain. So that's how Walt and I first met, is through that connection. Then as time goes on, we might have talked once or twice. Then me and the owner of that facility had a huge falling out, and I left. So now I'm all law of attraction based at the time. So, I literally lose this high paying job, and I'm like, okay, it'll be fine. It'll work out. And there's a chain of events that's what led me into my private practice. And I ended up making more money that year than if I would stay there. And then that led to me writing my book. That led to all these other things happening. And, the day I lost my job that morning, my mom, I spoke with her. I said, I want to let you know I'm no longer with, this company. And she said, do you think you could go begging for your job back? And I'm like, no, I'm good. And she's like, and she with everything, she was very negative, always anxiety ridden. So she was like, I'm so worried. What are you going to do now? You you're making such good money, and I got plenty of money saved up, and I'm going to open my private practice. She goes, do you think that even has a chance of working? I go, of course it does. It's just, yeah, she was just like, well, most businesses fail within the first year. So I had to get off the phone because, I had no doubt I didn't know how it was going to work. Well, within 2 weeks, a friend of mine had an empty office space in his office suite. I was there. Within 3 weeks, I had, 7 clients, and within a month, I was full and ended up making more money that year if I stayed with it. It just, and I never worried. I never, blinked because I was so there. So losing a high paying job that I was really planning on retiring from that company, and never missed a beat. So it worked out. I had no idea how it was going to work out. I wasn't happy I lost the job, but I also kept the faith that obviously this is going to propel me. There's no way I'd have the life right, because while I did love parts of that job, I love every piece of the job I have now. I have the best job on the planet. I work with the best people. My clients are awesome. I have a waiting list. I don't pay for a penny of advertising. It's just, I'm adding public speaking to my repertoire this year, and do a lot of, I'm back doing a podcast. I'm writing another book. Maybe it seems like I'm not, but I am. And
no, I believe you. I think we all believe that you're ready. You got so much on your plate. It just takes a while to get through it,
Yeah. I get there. I keep. I'm on it though. I promise.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. And one of these days you'll shock us by saying, well, the book is now in the hand of the editors. We'll say, what? Oh my God.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll get a bunch of free copies to LOA Today people once we get it set. So, but this is just so exciting when you all the stuff that we're talking about, it comes under the umbrella of, your belief system, your, understanding how this operates. You have a lot of evidence when, you were going, through your breakup and how that was all, happening. We relied a lot on, we knew, even though it was very rough on you, we knew we were going to get there.
Yeah. And the journey isn't over.
No.
I mean, I've traversed a lot of it.
Yeah.
I've covered a lot of ground, but no, it's like you pointed out, the journey never really ends.
Yeah. But that was a piece of your journey. That was a left turn in your journey. It was like, what?
It's more like a U-turn followed by a manhole cover, but yeah.
It's totally unpredictable, but here you are. And when we look back on it, the more time that passes, the rear view mirror of life shows it looks like it was all playing perfectly. Looking forward, it's like, I can't see how it's going to work out. But when you get to the place that even though you can see no path of this working out, it always works out, and it works out to your favor when you do it. All you got to do is understand that's going to happen.
And quite honestly, and I know you'll remember this because you were directly involved conversing with me and helping me through all this stuff. But I remember at the time thinking, this is very similar to what I went through 8 years ago, because I have all these issues that are hitting me at once. Not only do I have my primary relationship breaking up, but that would take my income away, and my housing situation was about to disappear, and my car was on its last legs. And it was like this long list of all these basic, fundamental things that you need to have, just, the base level of the pyramid of Maslow's pyramid of needs. All of that was in flux, just like it had been 8 years before. And I said to myself, this is going to play out like the other one. I mean, it's going to be different results. It's going to be different circumstances, but the last one played out where everything fell into place, and the same thing's going to happen here. I could just tell. And I was pissed off about it. I was really pissed off. Like, I don't want to have to go through this again. I've been through this once before. But I knew it was going to play out. And sure enough, it's what's been doing. It's been playing out beautifully.
Yeah. And it will. Now, I'm not saying these are fun times. It's just, it is what it is. And, you have the strength to handle it. You have the experience to handle it. You're going to handle it, and it's going to be in your benefit. It's just, you have to go through that's the human condition, the experience. I believe that's why we're here. You're here to, Esther Hicks, one of my favorite things that she says is when somebody asks, when you're just pure energy, why would you want to come back? And my favorite line she ever said was, explain to me what chocolate tastes like.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, you came back to taste the chocolate. You came back to have the heartache. You came back to experience, and you came back. This is an amusement park. We're here to experience the most exciting rides at Disney World or Universal Studios are the scariest rides. They're, the merry-go-rounds are boring, the ups and downs. And this is an amusement park. We're here to go through this. And it doesn't mean serious stuff doesn't happen. Doesn't mean we don't, but it's to experience it all. That's the journey piece. You get to feel it. You get to live it. The amazing people that pop into my life, it's just, I'm just fascinated with the connections of people that I keep making. And it's like, and of course half the time they think I'm weird because I believe everybody I meet, oh, hey, I'm glad to, I'm like, wow, I finally got to meet you. And they're like, I don't know you.
Yeah, but you're my kind of weird, so that's okay. I'm all right with
yeah,
you.
Yeah. And you clearly, I view weird as one of my superpowers. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Let's hear it for weird. I'm loving it. So, okay, I got to wrap things up here. Sam, you've been, first of all, once more, I got to congratulate you. You've been jumping into the conversation. I love that. Okay, but you got to tie the whole thing together. So if you have to reach into this last 60 minutes of what we've been talking about and find that one nugget that really grabbed your attention more than any of the others, what do you grab?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is just all the quantum stuff and placebo and stuff. Like there's like actual science to the attraction, but then it also just is like so much is just energy, and I think it's beyond our comprehension. But then it's kind of fun to try anyway.
It is, isn't it fun? Yeah, that's half the fun of being here, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the other half is having Joel Elston back on the show. This is really great. I'm so glad you're back, guy. I'm like psyched.
Well, I've been looking forward to this, and for the first time in many years, I get to say, I look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, how about that? We haven't said that in a while, have we?
Oh, well, yeah, a long time.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you very much. There will be a Joel and Sam intro next week, so that we'll have an official, because everybody has to have their own intro. All my co-hosts have intros. It's special for them. So there will be a Joel and Sam intro next week. But this week, Sam, I mean, isn't Joel everything I've ever sold? I mean, truly.
Definitely. This has been beautiful.
I mean, it's exciting. It's fun.
Absolutely. Glad to have you, Joel.
Thank you so much, Sam. Good to meet you too. It's just great to see you.
So thank you all very much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.